Alright, so I have been editing this Aussie Grapps episode that you're about to hear, and it struck me that even though I talked about it on the View from the WWE Universe podcast, which comes out tomorrow, which is Saturday, this podcast comes out today, which is Friday. You're listening to it, you know the day. I mean, you might be listening to it in the future, but it came out on a Friday, as all Aussie Grapps episodes do. And this specific episode comes out the Friday before Crown Jewel. Crown Jewel being the WWE event that's taking place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Now, it struck me that you're not going to hear what I had to say on the View from the WWE Universe until after the Crown Jewel event has aired, because it takes place at about 1 or 2 a.m. Australian time Saturday morning. The episode comes out at 7, so what I said was pretty useless. So even though this isn't related to Aussie Grapps, I'm going to throw this into this episode just so I can get the message out there for anyone who's listening. Now, if you, like me, are opposed to the whole Saudi Arabia Crown Jewel thing, there's a couple of ideas for you in terms of how you can protest this event without necessarily having to give up WWE forever or anything extreme like that. Because obviously WWE are the biggest global brand in wrestling, and it's hard to avoid when we want to talk about wrestling. But this specific event, a lot of people have a distaste for, and I am one of them. Hashtag fuck Saudi Arabia. Hashtag cancel Crown Jewel, etc. You guys know, you've been listening. So here are some alternatives. At the exact same time. Now, I was going to just sleep through the night, but because I heard about this, I'm going to be on it because you got to support the good stuff. So at the exact same time as Crown Jewel, Pro Wrestling Eve are going to be streaming a live show. I believe it's going to be happening on their Pivot Share. If you pay attention to their Pro Wrestling Eve Twitter, I will put the link in the show notes. They will let you know when and where this is happening. I will also put a link to the Pivot Share. Pro Wrestling Eve are a great company to support as it is. It's all women's wrestling from the UK, and they are very against the whole thing as well. So they're running against Crown Jewel in the exact same time slot. They're going to stream the show completely free, so you don't need to watch Crown Jewel to get your wrestling fix at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning. Tune in to Pivot Share, watch Pro Wrestling Eve instead. That's what I'll be doing. I'm going to wake up specifically to watch Pro Wrestling Eve's protest show. Also, you can run at the exact same time Crown Jewel is airing. Log into your WWE network. If you're not someone who wants to cancel, I mean, you could always cancel the WWE network and give that money to a human rights charity. That's another great idea that our friend Danders posted in What Would Gorilla Monsoon Do on Facebook. That's a good idea as well. But if you're not the kind of person who's ready to cancel their entire WWE network for this situation, you can log into your WWE network and replay Evolution. Don't watch the Crown Jewel event. Replay Evolution. What I'm going to do, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to log into the laptop, open up WWE Network, let Evolution play while I go out to the TV and watch Pro Wrestling Eve on my Apple TV. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to protest this thing in the way I can. I know not everyone's going to be comfortable doing the same things, so that's what I'm going to do. It's just an idea out there. Don't watch Crown Jewel, man. It's a piece of shit. It's not even well booked. One more thing. The B+ is growing, and we want you to be a part of it. So if you have an idea for a podcast, or if you want to, write reviews for shows, whether that's WWE, New Japan, local shows especially, we have a big focus on Aussie Grapps here. So if you go out to shows in Melbourne, we specifically need people in New Zealand, Tasmania, and Queensland. If you go out to shows in those areas, please let us know. We would love to hear from you. We would love to work with you. If you have a passion for wrestling and you want to write about anything wrestling. It can be anything. It can be listicles, it can be in-depth articles, opinion pieces, show reviews, whatever you want to do. If it's wrestling, it's fair game. Shoot us a message or send an email to theb+@unchained.media. That's theb+@unchained.media. Let us know what you want to do and we'll get back to you and we'll work something out, because the B+ is growing and we want to grow the B+ family. Now, on with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy.
Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it. Dummy. Yeah.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Lamas covers, three-handle family gradunzel.
Media presents the V Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin. Number 4, armbar. I will never retire. I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, fellow B Plus players, welcome to the B Plus Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Friday. You know what that means. It's Aussie Grapps Day. Aussie Grapps Day is the day we sit down and talk about, you guessed it, the name kind of implies it, Aussie Grapps. That's Australian professional wrestling. We're going to go through everything that happens in the world of Australian professional wrestling this week. We're going to preview this weekend's upcoming shows, as well as having a chat with an Aussie grappler or grappler-adjacent person. This week, I'm talking to Michelle K Hasluck ahead of her singles return for new Valhalla Pro Wrestling this weekend. But before we get to that interview, let's take a look at this week in Aussie Grapps news. Headlining the news just like they headlined the show in our hearts. The girls are killing it overseas at the moment. Of course, I am talking about WWE Evolution, a pay-per-view which featured not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 Australian and New Zealand performers. 5 in one night. Now, 2 of those were on the pre-show. Rhea Ripley defended her NXT UK Championship against Dakota Kai. That one will be coming to an NXT UK special somewhere down the line. Really good to see our girls not only killing it on the main stage, but opening up the show as well. Fantastic stuff to see. We also had, of course, Billy and Peyton the Iconics took part in that Battle Royale. It was a bit of a joke. They got eliminated straight away, but they did a fantastic job. They were featured more than almost anyone else in the match because on the way to the ring, they cut the promo, of course, which is what they are known for. That's how they get over. They don't need to. It's good to see them getting over without having to put their bodies on the line. You know, as much as I'd love to see them get more done in the ring, I'm happy with where they're at. It's really fun to watch. And then, of course, Toni Storm in what could be called match of the night. There were a couple of contenders. The NXT title was a contender. The SmackDown title was a contender. But the Mae Young Classic final with Io Shirai was also a huge contender for match of the night. And Toni Storm walks out with the Mae Young Classic trophy. She's a Gold Coast girl. She's an Aussie Grapps girl. Congratulations, Toni Storm, on just killing it over in the UK and, of course, in America with WWE for Evolution for this Mae Young Classic. Had a fantastic tournament. And really good to see Toni pick up the win in the Mae Young Classic. She absolutely deserves it. Speaking of killing it overseas, Gino Gambino is currently touring Europe. He's made appearances with OTT in Ireland, with Rev Pro, with Progress. He was in a surprise match at Progress. It was an open challenge by Trent Seven for the Atlas Championship, and he answered the call and he impressed everyone from the reports I'm hearing. I'm really looking forward to seeing that one. That was at Progress Chapter 77. Should be really good. Should be up on Demand Progress shortly. Definitely want to check that out. He also defended the title over there in one of the smaller independent promotions. He's now claiming that it's a world title. I always thought that you needed to go 3 continents for a world title. Mikey says it's 5 countries. Either way, one other country doesn't cut it for me, Gino. I do apologize. It's really good to see you killing it over there. I'm really looking forward to the Progress match. But you are not my world champion, friend. You are not my world champion. Although, I guess, if Melbourne City Wrestling want to claim it as a world title, I mean, you know, you can't really stop them. There's no hard and fast rules. There's no governing body in wrestling. You do what you want. You do what you want. I mean, there's a company in Canberra that have a world championship that gets defended in the mid-card when the Inter-Suburbs Championship is in the main event. So I don't know. Who am I to tell these guys what to do? If Melbourne City Wrestling want to call it a world title, call it a world title, fellas. In other news, I've talked about this show before. If you're not watching it, you're missing out. Trophy Life launched a Halloween special this week. I don't want to spoil anything major, I guess. It's kind of hard to talk about it without spoiling it. It's fantastic. You got to watch it. I'm going to put a link in the show notes. To watch season 1, 2, and 3, it's only going to take you like an hour and a half. They're 5-minute episodes. It's hilarious stuff. You can watch 5 minutes at a time. It's a perfect show to just throw on for a mindless 5 minutes. It's really fun. And this Halloween special, this one goes for 10 minutes. It was hilarious. It featured a guest appearance by Mick Moretti, And let's just say some Freaky Friday-style shenanigans take place with Mick Moretti and Elliot Sexton, and it is as great as it sounds. It is better than it sounds. Like, when I say it's Mick Moretti and Elliot Sexton in a Freaky Friday-type situation, that sounds good. Really does. But this is amazing. It's better than good. You need to check out this Trophy Life Halloween special. It's must-see viewing. Also must-see viewing, Mayhem Pro Episode 1, It's My First Day, has released in full on YouTube. It's definitely one you want to check out. It was their first show. That's JXT and Co. put that one on, and it's a really, really well put together for a first show. I enjoyed watching it. It's a short one. It only goes for about an hour and a half. So it's a Sunday afternoon show that they do. They run Sundays, which is awesome. It's good to see another company doing Sundays in Melbourne, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from Mayhem Pro, but that's completely free on YouTube, so there's no excuse not to watch it. An hour and a half of your day, Mayhem Pro, some good wrestling, some good wrestlers, support the boys, get on it. Also this week, talking Melbourne wrestling, Melbourne City Wrestling uploaded to MCW Encore, IWA vs MCW State of Origin. I have not gotten around to watching this one yet, I will admit, but it's on the list. It's definitely one you want to check out. This one took place a couple of months ago, but it still has knock-on effects throughout the IWA universe, with IWA obviously picked up the victory, spoiler alert, in that State of Origin, and so everyone who was on the IWA team that night gets a fighting spirit favor, and that is still having knock-on effects throughout the promotion, which we'll talk about shortly when I get to talking about IWA. But first, I want to talk about something that took place in Melbourne last weekend. The Jurassic Punk Syd Parker was slated to challenge for the Battle Championship Wrestling Heavyweight Championship in an ultra-violent rules match against the current champion, Mad Dog. Syd Parker, of course, is a former BCW champion, while Mad Dog recently won the title from Rob Van Dam in his latest tour of the country with BCW. So it makes sense for these two to be pairing off. Now, the day before the show, Syd Parker posted to Facebook, important announcement. Unfortunately, Syd Parker will not be appearing at Battle Championship Wrestling tomorrow night. When the ultra-violent rules match was proposed to me, I offered BCW management alternatives and multiple deals regarding remuneration before advertising commenced. BCW management did not reply to my messages until today, and unfortunately, a deal could not be reached. I am unwilling to sacrifice my body in that type of match for what BCW is offering. Sorry for any fans that have missed out. This is a pretty crappy situation, but also very understandable. If you're asking talent to, as Syd Parker said, put their bodies on the line, sacrifice their bodies for you, I mean, there's going to be a price to that. I mean, every time a wrestler goes out there, they have a price that they are willing to go out there for. And if you are asking them to do something above and beyond, then it makes sense that the price will go up. Now, BCW, respond to your talent. That's the big takeaway here, right? Because the match would have never been advertised if you had have just gotten... Because he says he messaged them... Now, this is only one side of the story, but he says he messaged them before advertising commenced. I would tend to believe that he did. I mean, he has no reason to say it if he didn't. So if he messaged them before advertising commenced, they probably should have gotten back to him a lot quicker and not advertised the matchup until this was sorted out. I have the utmost respect for Syd Parker for standing up for himself and saying, look, I want to work with you guys, but if I'm going to do this, then I need to be paid extra because I'm taking extra risk. That is perfectly reasonable for me, and every talent across the country should take a look at what Syd Parker has done and say, yes, I believe in that. Like, stand up for yourselves, man. Get what you are worth. Be paid what you are worth. If a promoter is not willing to pay you your worth, do not work with that promoter. Or don't work with them in that capacity, at least. The other side of the coin, of course, stepping up to the plate to fill in was Slick Nick Berry. He pulled double duty on the night. So hats off to Slick Nick. Now, I don't know, obviously, what the pay situation is. That's between the boys. That's up to them. But obviously, Slick Nick was happy to take the punishment for whatever BCW were offering. Everyone's going to have a different price, and that's absolutely fine. Nick absolutely stepped up from what I have seen. The match was phenomenal. You expect nothing less from a Mad Dog death match or ultra-violent rules match. You're going to expect some craziness. You're going to expect it to be hard-hitting, to be brutal. You expect there to be blood. And from what I'm seeing on the photos, there was blood, there was thumbtacks, there was all sorts of violence. And it looks like the crowd had a good time. It looks like the show went off without a hitch, other than, of course, this whole Jurassic Punk Syd Parker situation. Now, it sucks, obviously, that Parker had to pull out, but I'm sure he's going to have no shortage of work anywhere else, to be honest with you, because he's a phenomenal talent, and I enjoy watching him, so I hope he gets booked everywhere, to be honest with you. But like I said, Slick Nick Berry absolutely stepped up to the plate and hit a home run out of the park, because he pulled double duty that night. He was already, earlier in the night, in a tag match with Mitch Waterman against the Preston Kindred, and then in the main event as well. So he pulled double duty that night, and came very close to becoming the new BCW heavyweight champion. So hats off to Nick Berry. Hats off to Syd Parker for standing up for himself, because talent need to have the balls to stand up for themselves, and I absolutely respect that. And a word to BCW, get better at communicating with your talent, because you want to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen. Advertising matches and having something like that come out is never a good look. So you definitely want to be picking your game up, especially if you're charging $40 for your tickets. Just going to put that out there. Now, taking a look closer to home for me in my home state of South Australia, Pro Wrestling South Australia held War Games last week, and this was headlined by a PWSA championship match between Matt Hayter and Richie Taylor, which is available on Facebook video. I will drop a link in the show notes. It's definitely one to watch. Matt Hayter vs. Richie Taylor. I watched it this morning while I was preparing. Really fun match. And they have announced that they are leaving the arena in Pooraka. This is a place where they have been putting on weekly shows for nigh on 5 years. And this coming Friday, the 2nd of November, is their last ever show at the arena in Pooraka. So if you haven't experienced the arena in Pooraka, get on down this Friday night to Pro Wrestling South Australia for their Friday night fights. It's the last one at the arena in Pooraka, and their last show of 2018 as well. They'll be back in January, and they're going to be putting on monthly shows moving forward throughout 2019 for the time being. So 5 years in the arena, but it comes to an end this Friday night as the company moves on into a new chapter, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the new year holds with them. Now, I want to take a look at a couple of storyline developments happening within the world of Australian wrestling, because there were some major events that took place over the last week. Starting with Newcastle Pro Wrestling, Big Fudge had a match with Jack Bonza. Now, Jack Bonza cost Fudge his first match in Newcastle Pro Wrestling. Big Fudge has never had a win in Newcastle Pro Wrestling. Big Fudge has been picking on... Jack Bonza has been picking on Big Fudge for quite a while now. It came to a head where he stole Big Fudge's mask. And at the last show, at the 7th anniversary, the Halloween show, Big Fudge defeated Jack Bonza, claiming his first victory in Newcastle Pro Wrestling. This is a story that has gone on for a long time, and I'm very excited to see where it goes next. Now that Big Fudge has picked up his first victory, the big question is, who will he take on at the next event? December 1st, well, they have a show at November 10th, but I'm not sure if Big Fudge is on that show. So November 10th or December 1st, who will Big Fudge have in a match? And can he continue this momentum after finally putting Jack Bonza in the rear view? Will Jack Bonza allow Big Fudge to put him in the rear view? I'm very interested to see where this one goes, and it's years in the making, so it's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to following this one as it unfolds. Also in Newcastle Pro Wrestling, Jackson Kelly was awarded the Newcastle Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. Full Force Matt Rogers was slated to defend against Jackson Kelly, but he was not there. He did not appear for the scheduled bout, and therefore was said to forfeit the match, and the title was awarded to Jackson Kelly. But Jackson Kelly's night did not end there, because the world's finest Carter Deems interrupted, threw down his Invictus Gauntlet, which is the Newcastle Pro Wrestling version of a Money in the Bank. He threw down that gauntlet and claims his title match. Jackson Kelly ends up picking up the victory with the boot, but Carter Deems put on a good show, and Jackson Kelly actually had to work to become the Newcastle Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, because it was handed to him, but Carter Deems wasn't going to just sit idly by while someone else was handed a championship. So he cashed in, he threw down that Invictus Gauntlet and took Jackson Kelly to the limits. Jackson Kelly earns the championship victory with his patented boot. Meanwhile, over in IWA, I touched on IWA before and mentioned that, the MCW vs. IWA show is still having knock-on events. Both Randall and Cowboy Chris Abbott cashed in their fighting spirit favors to get a title match against Jonah Rock. This was a triple threat match for the IWA Championship, which ended with Cowboy Chris Abbott crowned as the IWA champion. But Jackson Kelly, just talking about Jackson Kelly with Newcastle Pro Wrestling, Jackson Kelly has immediately let it be known that he is coming for IWA Gold as well, and he still has in his back pocket tucked away a Fighting Spirit favor that he has yet to cash in on. So we're gonna assume he's gonna use that Fighting Spirit favor to get his crack at Cowboy Chris Abbott and the IWA title. Jackson Kelly has gold on his mind. We've talked to him before, and he said he wants to make waves everywhere he goes. The Beach Bum Buddha is definitely doing that. Also making waves, IWA have had somewhat of a payoff to an almost year-long story with the attacks that have been taking place on Mehmet, the Turkish Delight. So, it was revealed that Apollo, the Headhunters, and Gino Gambino were all hired by Tyson Gibbs, who made his return to IWA, hitting Mehmet with the thrill kill and joining Apollo to demolish Mehmet's leg with a chair. That's put Mehmet on the shelf for another 4 months, so we're not going to see him back in an IWA ring for a while. And it turns out that Tyson Gibbs was the mastermind all along. The others were just paid help, hired help. So why did Tyson Gibbs do this? I guess we'll have to find out. But it's definitely a story to keep an eye on. This one's been going for a while. I like long-term storytelling, so I'm very excited to see where this goes and what it leads to. One more thing to touch on. It was a weekend of new champions, apparently in Australian and New Zealand wrestling, because over in SPW New Zealand, there was a new heavyweight champion crowned. Congratulations, Kane Khan, on dethroning Will Power as SPW heavyweight champion. Definitely looking forward to seeing that one when it comes up on SPW On Demand. That is at Halloween Haunting, which took place last weekend. Keep an eye out for that. We will let you know as soon as that goes up on demand. One last thing before we talk to Michelle K Hasluck ahead of her return for New Valhalla Pro Wrestling. New Valhalla Wrestling have uploaded their first match to Facebook video. I've been bugging them for weeks about this. When am I going to see some matches? When am I going to see some matches? I talk about you all the time. I love the aesthetic. I love everything you're doing, but I just want to see some matches. Well, they finally appeased me. The Allfather has seen fit to release one of the matches from New Valhalla Rising, the first ever New Valhalla show. And I was watching it and I'm just like, not like this. Not like this, guys. I would have really liked, personally, as an outsider to Queensland Professional Wrestling, as a person who does not know a lot about the scene and wants to learn more, really, really wants to learn more, I'm having a look at it, and it's a 6-man tag match where Old Outlaws and Dragon take on Suit Up Society and Ryan Thorne. All names that I've seen, all pictures that I've seen, but when you're watching a video, I couldn't tell who was who. I have no idea. There was no commentary on the match, which I understand. They're a new company. They're still getting on their feet. Finding someone to commentate. I hope they find someone to commentate before these release fully on demand. And when you're paying, especially if you're paying for a pivot share service, you definitely want to get commentary then. But for a free match on Facebook, I'm okay with there being no commentary. But I think maybe it would have been easier if it was a one-on-one match. If we saw potentially the main event, or even one of the one-on-one matches that took place on the show, then you get a better sense of the characters and a better sense of what's happening in the match. This was a really good 6-man tag match. Don't get me wrong. Definitely recommend checking it out and watching it for the action. But for me personally, anyone who listens to, especially like the Ring of Honor podcasts and stuff that I do, anyone who listens to all the stuff I do, they'll pick up pretty quickly. I'm not a huge fan of the whole multi-man indie spot fest kind of match. I mean, I like it for what it is. I appreciate it when I see it. And I'm like, that was a good piece of art for what it was. It's just not my preferred style of art. I prefer that painting of a story drawn out over 20 minutes between two competitors. That's definitely what I prefer. But 6 men just going at it and doing crazy jumping up on the rope and, springboarding over into a moonsault. It was impressive. Some of the stuff these guys did, I can't say who did what because I don't know who these guys are. But it's definitely a good match to watch in terms of athleticism, in terms of, hard-hitting action, high-flying, fast-paced excitement. Really, really good stuff from New Valhalla Wrestling with this 6-man tag. But I just personally, for my first introduction to New Valhalla, for my first introduction to a lot of these Queensland guys, I think a one-on-one match with commentary or without commentary, a one-on-one match would have been far easier. If you're going to do a 6-man match, man, I need something to tell me who's who. It was kind of, it upset me a little. I was so excited to see it pop up in my newsfeed, and then I was like, oh, that match was really good, but I have no idea who anyone was, and it was just one of those things. But I still recommend checking it out because, like I said, it was a great match for what it was, just not necessarily my style of match. And with that, let's get into talking about Michelle K Hasluck ahead of her match this weekend at New Valhalla Pro Wrestling. Her match is a one-on-one match. She's taking on Vixen, but I don't need to talk about it because I talked to Michelle about it. Let's cut across to the interview, and then I will hit you after the interview with what's happening this week near you. All right, joining me at this time, through the magic of the internet, no thanks to the technology that's in front of us, though, really. Someone who I've taken to calling the First Lady of EPW. I don't know if that's gimmick infringement with Shazza down there in Melbourne and stuff, but Michelle K Hasluck, how are you?
Hello, I'm good now that I can actually hear you talking, so that's good.
Yeah, so for those listening, we've had a few... we were meant to start this interview, 40 minutes ago?
Yeah, something like that.
but you know, sometimes computers are unkind.
And I am the worst with technology. Anyone who knows me knows that technology just kind of blows up when I'm around, so I'm going to take that blame. I'll say it's all my fault.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have to try to be good with technology, right? It's kind of my business. It's what I do. So yeah, I'm happy for you to take all the blame. Let's leave it with that. So I wanted to talk to you about your return, which takes place in Queensland this weekend as people listen. But first, I think we'll lay some background for anyone not familiar with Michelle Hasluck. You've been doing this for a while, yeah?
Yeah, I have. I started my training in 2002 at the Dynamite Factory with Explosive Pro Wrestling, and I had my first match in 2003. So it's quite a long time I've been doing this.
Yeah. So let's start there. How did you get into the crazy world of pro wrestling? So all the way back then, you know, it wasn't on a lot of people's radars.
Well, even before that, when I've been watching wrestling since I was a small child, and I decided many, many, many years ago that wrestling was something I wanted to try. I wanted to be like Alundra Blaze and Bull Nakano.
Right.
And I wanted to really give it a shot. And at one point in my life, I was looking at training overseas or training in Melbourne with PCW or in Sydney with AWF. So that's going back a really long time.
Yeah.
And then I was lucky enough to run into one of the guys who was training with the EPW, which was then ECW, after a flight going to Melbourne for the first Global Warning.
Okay.
That flight, I actually left my wallet and my luggage on the plane, and I was freaking out big time, and I'd never travelled solo anywhere. I was 16 or 17 at the time, and this nice guy came up to me and was like trying to calm me down and just chat to me and see, you know, just chat to this chick. And he ended up being Devlin Reeves of EPW Hall of Famer.
Right.
Gave me all the details and stuff. So as soon as I got home from home from Melbourne, I looked it up and started training as soon as I possibly can.
Gotta love those chance encounters, right?
Yeah, it was, I think that if I didn't run into him and speak to him, I might not have ever found out about EPW.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the great things about big wrestling shows. They bring people together. Like when I went to the Super Showdown just the other week.
Yeah.
Just the amount of people, like the amount of wrestling shirts and stuff at the like everyone was talking about wrestling on the plane, like in the airport in line and everything as we're waiting. It's just crazy to like it brings people together. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it does. And that was what I noticed about that Global Warning show, like waiting in line, like I was waiting in line for 4 o'clock or something like that. And just the people around me were all from different states, and just talking about wrestling, it really does bring people together who normally, you know, wouldn't really associate with each other. It's really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we talk about it a lot on this show. Wrestling is kind of it attracts the outsiders as well. So it's as soon as you find someone who's a wrestling fan as well, it's like instant bonding moment. And then
yeah, it definitely is. To
meet someone else who was training when that was your goal, like that's just an incredible moment.
Yeah. And that was, 2002? So
yeah,
a long time ago now.
Yeah, well, so you started training with, as you mentioned, the infamous EPW school. And
yes.
You were, if I'm not mistaken, the one of, if not the first female wrestler in, not just EPW, in Western Australia?
There was one other lady who was around in the 70s.
Right.
Who now lives in the States. But of the new millennia, I'm the first one that they have.
Yeah, in the modern era.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being pretty much the first female in the locker room and in the state, intergender wrestling was kind of a necessity for you, right? So how do you feel about the debate that still rages on about intergender wrestling?
Oh, people like me and Vixen, even Kellyanne and stuff like that, people need to understand that we've been doing this for a long time. Like, I didn't have any girls to wrestle when I started. So, you know, I was wrestling people like Bobby Badblood or Bobby Marshall and stuff like that. And I still believe that if you've got two great storytellers, two great athletes, there's no reason why they can't tell a great story.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is kind of a bit of a ridiculous debate, because I know that, obviously, like, if you ever go to a wrestling school, everyone trains together anyway, and you all train the same.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I wasn't the only girl training. There were some other girls who were training at the time as well, but there was more men than what there was girls, and I was obviously the only one who got through the whole training.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point in doing all that training if you're not going to wrestle.
Yeah.
So wrestling men, it was a necessity for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you mentioned it already. You did some work in the early days of your career with Bobby Badblood. I actually read that at one point, when you were doing the blood bitch gimmick with him, you got attacked by a fan?
Oh, yeah.
How did that happen?
We were the super mega heels. Really over the top heels, and one day I was managing on the outside in a full length gold dress and high heels.
Right.
And
as you do.
Yeah, as you do. And this female fan thought that she'd try and jump the guardrail and try and fly kick me. I sidestepped her and I took her down with a forearm, was holding her on the outside. Then the guys in the ring saw what was happening, and CJL and Bobby came out of the ring and we were trying to subdue her. And then security had to come and take her out, and she was saying, "Michelle, you know what you've done?" I was like, I had no idea what she was talking about.
Right.
But I ended up with a nice little, she grabbed the front of my hair. So I had this nice little bald spot on the front of my head from it.
Wow.
I'd kind of take it as a bit of a bit of a badge for saying how good we were as heels, that someone felt that they could do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you hear stories about the old days where you know, the wrestlers had to leave under hoods and stuff because people were legitimately trying to kill them. So, you know, like from the old days, from the territory days, you hear those stories. But to hear one that happened that close to home and not that long ago, I'm like, I thought everyone knew. I thought everyone was kind of in on it at that point.
Yeah, it was like, I kind of assumed people would know what they were watching, because I was pretty cluey as a young kid. I kind of put two and two together really quickly, that It was a performance and it was a show. Obviously not all people get that.
Yeah, but it's a testament to the work you guys were doing. So. Oh
yeah, we were hated. It was amazing, an amazing time in my life, and I thank CJL and Bobby for taking me along on that ride.
Yeah, absolutely. And people can go back and relive this on EPW from the Vault as well. So
they sure can.
So
There's
how amazing is the internet
on there, which is just the power of the internet.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So anyone who's interested in seeing these things unfold, EPW from the Vault is the place to go. But you've come a long way since then. Now you rock, like when I saw you, you've been doing this bit for a while now. When I saw you at PWA, you were rocking a kind of twisted Disney princess gimmick, is how I think you referred to it in your interview with Erin from Bronco Busters. Was this something that you kind of pushed for? Was it natural that it just kind of happened? How did you get to a twisted Disney princess situation?
Well, there was a guy who I was managing early on, in this gimmick, who was called Bruiser Barry. Mm-hmm. And he was a big Disney fan as well. And he kind of liked the idea of being like a twisted Mickey Mouse. And I'm like, okay, got the word that I would be managing him. And I'm like, all right, I can have some fun with this. I'm a huge Disney mark. So Disney, easy for me to try and transform into an adult style of Disney.
Yeah.
So, you know, all fairy tales and stuff usually have a very twisted beginning.
Yes. Yeah, the original stuff is actually quite dark.
Yeah, exactly. So, what if Disney had a twisted kind of start to begin with? And that's kind of what I went with. Like, what if Disney was actually very, very dark?
Right.
So, yeah, I just kind of went along with it, and it came quite naturally to be that kind of character for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic. And you know what? Now that you talk about you saying you being a huge Disney mark and stuff, have you seen the things that New Horizon Pro Wrestling do? They had a Disney Rumble recently.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I've seen footage of it.
Yeah, you've worked for pretty much everyone over in Western Australia. I would love to see you turn up in a Disney Rumble. I think that, just not as a Disney character, just as yourself. insert yourself into
Yeah,
that
well, I
universe.
thought that would have been fun, but obviously they had their own ideas for what they wanted to do and stuff, and what they did ended up looking like a lot of fun, so
Yeah, it definitely
good on
did.
them for doing it.
Definitely did. Now, so another Western Australian company that I know you've done some work for, Schwa. I'm a big fan of the stuff that Schwa do. And I wanted to ask you about the Lego deathmatch you had with Felix Young, because I have kids, and that stuff is no joke. Like, what were you thinking?
No, it's not. Like, I've got 2 kids as well, and stepping on Lego, like when you're creeping around late at night and stepping on Lego, it's a bit painful.
Yeah.
The Lego that we used in that was actually me and Felix Young's younger brother's Lego.
Nice.
We used Mega Blocks as well. That was my girl's Lego.
Oh, they're so huge. Getting slammed on that would not be fun.
Yeah, we had that on the table for the final moments of the match, and everyone was like, "Oh God!" Like,
ouch.
Yeah, but that match is something I hold very dear to my heart because Schwa's let me do a lot of intergender stuff, which some other companies seem to be a bit scared to do, like a Lego deathmatch between a guy and a girl. Not really something I thought I'd ever be able to do, but they gave me the opportunity to do it, and me and Felix, we killed it that night, so...
Yeah.
So obviously they were very happy with what we were able to do.
Yeah, it's become one of those matches that people sort of whisper about. Like, if you say to someone, what's a good match that I can check out from over in Perth, it's actually one that I've seen pop up quite a bit, which, given some of the absolute bangers of matches that have happened over there, it's pretty insane that...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The next question I wanted to ask you, as someone who, I would consider you a trailblazer. Is that comfortable saying that? A bit of a trailblazer for women in Australian wrestling?
Yeah, if you want to use that.
Yeah,
I'm using that in my pride.
I'm using it. I'll give you the little ego boost. But seeing how far everything has come since you started, like, you know, people you've worked with, people like Toni Storm, people like Evie, having the crazy success that they're having, and just the way the scene has grown and become more accepting and everything. Like, how does it feel to watch this happen over time?
It's awesome. It really is awesome. Like, these girls, they're not just happy to rest on their laurels being a good women's wrestler. Like, they've gone that one step further and have become good wrestlers. And I can't take anything away from them. Like, so many girls, like with the girls in Shimmer, people like Madison Eagles as well.
Yeah.
These girls train bloody hard to be as good as what they are, you know, and to be able to be in a ring with any of them at this point is just, it's mind-blowing that we have that talent here in Australia.
Yeah.
It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
We are
it
so
is as
lucky,
a fan as well. Just to see it happening is crazy.
Yeah. And you see, like, the shows like MCW and stuff are putting on where they're having these amazing shows and, you know, 2 women's matches on the show as well. Not just as piss breaks, but as actual legitimate matches that the fans are really into, and the wrestling is top notch. It's amazing to see.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. And it's a credit to all the girls who are working really, really hard to own their craft. And I think that's like a big difference. Like, we got more women who are able to push each other to become better as well.
Yeah, well, there's something I'm noticing as well with you know, especially in the Aussie Grapps community. I feel like everyone's really focused on working together, but especially the women. I've noticed.
Yeah, well, we got a pretty good camaraderie, most of us, when it comes to, you know, I have no problems asking these girls like what they think of my matches and stuff like that, and we're quite free giving when it comes to advice and. You know, support and stuff like that as well. It's really nice, like the community that we do have together.
Yeah, that's something that you did touch on in the Bronco Busters interview that I've recently read as well, that you did with Erin, was not just the community amongst women, but also amongst fellow Indigenous workers.
Yeah, like me and Erica Reed, we've never met, but she knows that she's got my support 110%, and I know the exact same would be likewise. I know that if I asked her for any advice or anything like that, she'd be quite honest with me and tell me what she thought, and vice versa. Joel Bateman as well, he's not active anymore, or at the moment.
Yeah.
But he's another one who I look up to and I admire so much, like as a person and as a wrestler. And I know that if I hit him up for anything like, can you watch this match for me, like that, he'd do that, no problems.
Yeah, amazing. So, look, I know you're quite proud of your indigeneity as well. And, something EPW have started doing now at the beginning of the show is the Acknowledgement of Country. And it was your mother who did the first Acknowledgement of Country this year.
Yeah, it was. She was really proud of herself. I was very proud of her as well. I couldn't think of a better person to do it. She's been supporting EPW, well, since I started training, really. She's always been there, like, taking photos and just supporting the boys the best that she could. And I could not be any more proud of the fact that that was my mum who got to do the first one. That was just a little teary-eyed because she had a pretty amazing year when, like, the last 12 months she's just found her family and been able to trace the family tree and all that kind of stuff as well. And that kind of came about at the same time. And it was just, it was pretty emotional. Yeah,
so getting in touch with the roots and everything and having that moment, that's pretty special. And that'll live on forever as well.
Yeah, just the idea that I now know my aunties that I didn't know existed, and knowing where we're actually from, not just Noongar, but knowing that we're originally from Gamelling on a reserve there, stuff like that, and then being able to do the Welcome to Country.
Yeah.
It was just very emotional.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Sorry to interrupt, guys. We're going to get back to the interview in just a second, but first, just want to talk to the blokes in the audience. Let's be honest. We all want to look good. Whether we're going out to the local Grapps show, whether we're going out with friends, whatever we're doing, we want to look good. But we don't necessarily... we're not all Nikki Van Blair with daddy's credit card spending up a spree. We don't all necessarily like the shopping aspect that it takes to look good. And that's where Threadbox comes in. Threadbox is a monthly subscription box that sends personalized clothing to your door. When I say personalized clothing, I'm not talking about the weird stuff that has your name on it and says it's a family thing or whatever. I'm not talking about those things that you get on the Facebook ads. I'm talking about real, personalized, personal shopping experience. If you need shirts, they're going to look at shirts. If you need singlets, they're going to look at singlets. If you need shoes, they're going to look at shoes. You're in email contact with a stylist who will build a style profile based on how you like to look. I've got the fresh duds. CJ gets the classic box where, a little bit plainer in his outlook, whereas I like to have funky patterns. And they're going to personalize that and tailor it to you and to your needs. And what's more is it's available on every budget with boxes starting from just $40. So if you want to look good with less effort and without all the pesky shopping stuff, if you want someone else to handle that for you, head over to threadbox.com.au, and because you are a B+ player, they're going to give you 15% off your first box when you use the code the B+15. That's threadbox.com.au, use the code the B+15 and get your first box today. Look, I've talked about it. Let's get to it. I've talked about it on my Aussie Grapps shows already, but you're making a return to singles action after about 2 or so years away.
Yeah, about 2 years it will be when the match happens.
What prompted the break?
I copped a bit of a bad neck injury in a match. I had a tables match, and I was hitting the side of the head with a part of a table, and it knocked me out and twisted my neck in a pretty bad way. So it was one of those things where don't know if I'll be coming back, don't know if I would be able to come back, wanting to come back, but not being sure if I could come back.
Right.
But doing the rehab and seeing the chiropractor and the physio and all that kind of thing, my neck is good and strong again, and now it just seems like the right time to come back.
Right. So as we speak, you're after the hard road of recovery, you're just a couple of weeks away from your singles return. But as people listen to this, it's literally tomorrow. So New Valhalla Pro Wrestling bringing you back to Queensland for your return singles match against the hardcore bitch Vixen. It's been a while since you guys squared off.
I am so excited. Vixen's one of those people who I consider her an absolute trailblazer, like with the stuff that she's been able to do with men and women, her character, her demeanor, her wrestling skill, her style. She's so unique when it comes to Australian wrestling. There's no one else like her.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to put my wrestling and my character against hers and seeing what kind of magic we can make.
Absolutely. You're both know, we talked about the Lego Deathmatch. Obviously, Vixen is the hardcore bitch. So, can we expect some pretty crazy violence? Because this match, if I'm not mistaken, all Valkyries matches in New Valhalla Pro Wrestling are no disqualification.
Yeah, the Dawn of the Valkyries has no disqualification as well.
Yeah.
So, I guess we'll just have to see what happens on the night, see what we do to each other to see who can get the pin.
Yeah.
I'm expecting there to be some foul play, but we've also got the death match on the same night as well, so...
Yeah, it's going to be a big night for New Valhalla Pro Wrestling. New Valhalla is still pretty new as well. This is only show 3?
Yeah, show 3.
Wow. So how did you get involved with New Valhalla?
Well, my other half is their champion.
Yes. Warship.
And I know the bookers from when I did my work in Prowl.
Yes.
6 years ago.
Right.
And they just thought that me and Vixen is a match that they and the rest of Australia will want to see. And I was so keen on having this match, so we worked it out, and it's finally happening.
Yeah, I've been keeping my eye on New Valhalla because I'm a big fan of the Viking theme and the sort of the aesthetic that they go for. And unfortunately, no matches have been uploaded yet, not in full, so I haven't actually gotten to see any action. But this is another notch in the column of I really need to see this place because I agree with them. It's a match that I definitely want to see. I'm looking forward to it. Do you know if these matches are going to be released online at any time in the future?
I think that's the plan, to release them online and do either a Pivot Share or Vimeo or something like that. But we'll just have to stay tuned to see when all that gets done.
Awesome. So that's something to look forward to. But for now, if you want to see it, people, if you're in Queensland, like anywhere in Queensland that's within driving distance, you need to get down to Mount Gravatt Showgrounds for it's Saturday night, November 3rd, New Valhalla Pro Wrestling Ragnarok. You'll get to see some incredible matches. Obviously, there was a triple threat death match for the main event.
Yeah, and I'm so looking forward to that because I have not seen Mad Dog actually in his element with a death match. So for me, as someone who's a fan of wrestling, I am really looking forward to seeing what those 3 guys can actually pull out of the bag.
Yeah, absolutely. And we get, of course, your return against the Hardcore Bitch Vixen. So, look, where can people find you, Michelle?
I am on Instagram at @mhasluck, and I'm pretty active on there, and also on Facebook as Michelle K Hasluck.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, and yeah, I look forward to seeing the match.
Oh, thank you very much.
All right, so there you have it, folks. Michelle K Hasluck, Vixen, 1-on-1 in a Dawn of the Valkyries match for New Valhalla Wrestling this weekend. That one takes place at Mount Gravatt Showgrounds, but we'll get to that. If you liked what you heard there, if you like listening to Aussie grapplers talk about their craft, talk about what they got coming up, talk about their history, if you like listening to Aussie grappler interviews, make sure you check out Wrestle Radio Australia and On the Turnbuckle as we get not 1, but 2 interviews this week with none other than TMDK's Damian Slater ahead of EPW Reawakening 17, which, by the way, I did a podcast about yesterday with Kevin Chiat. You want to get on scroll back through the timeline and check that one out. We run down the entire card for EPW, but if you want to hear Damian Slater's thoughts, have a listen to Wrestle Radio Australia and On the Turnbuckle. The interviews will be different. The On the Turnbuckle boys, they have 3 or 4 different hosts that sit there and grill these guys when it comes interview time. It's not the one-on-one kind of setting you just heard with Michelle. Whereas WRA, that is a one-on-one setting, but it's with Todd Eastman, who has a bit more insider knowledge than me. You know, he's a manager, he's out there, he's doing it. It's different flavors of ice cream for different folks, as Todd Eastman told me. So, you know, the interviews are going to be different, but Damian Slater was on both Wrestle Radio Australia and On the Turnbuckle this week, so make sure you get out and check those out if you want to support Aussie grapplers. And also, if you want to support Aussie grapplers, there's nothing better that you can do than get out to a show this weekend, buy a ticket, buy a shirt, support the boys and girls, and see them do what they do for you and hand over your hard-earned cash. It's the best way you can support, obviously. So let's get to it and find out what's happening near you this weekend. Starting off in my home state, South Australia, Friday night, Pro Wrestling South Australia are at the arena in Pooraka for the last time as they present Friday night fights. Luxurious Collective and the Veterans Club team up to take on Beauty and the Beast, Lil Onyx, Amber Switch, and Acid Haze in a huge 10-person intergender main event tag, and much, much more. Tickets start at $15. And on Saturday, Australian Wrestling Revolution present their first show ever at Playford Civic Centre, just down the road from me. Literally, I could walk there from my house and it would take me 15 minutes. Unfortunately, I have family commitments and I'm not going to be able to make it. Bumming me out. But the queen of ACW, Riley, will take on Hardcore Mona. Jesse Hendy goes one-on-one with Blake the Man Mitchell in no DQ action. Victoria's Slade Mercer and Jake Lindo will be at the show. They will be in action at some point as well. And in the main event, Two absolute veterans of Australian wrestling, over 40 years of experience combined in the ring, face off for the first time ever when TNT takes on John E. Raddick. Tickets for that one start from $15. Over in Victoria, as always, PCW present Ignition at the Southeastern Entertainment Centre. Tickets for that are $15. And on Tuesday, the 6th of November next week, PCW Pancakes and Piledrivers. That is on Melbourne Cup morning. Get out, get some pancakes, watch some wrestling. Tickets start at $15 for that one as well. Head to the PCW Facebook to find out more. Up in New South Wales on Friday night, Rock and Roll Wrestling head to City Diggers in Wollongong for Halloween Havoc. That one might be trademarked now, fellas, I'd watch out. Three-piece thrash band Panic will be performing on the show. Otis Wrestling takes on Hardcore Bob Holly. Captain Keto and Jay Sorbet host an open tag team challenge for the Rock and Roll Wrestling Tag Team Championships. Hunter P.S. Hayes, Ricky South, Big Fudge, and more will all be in attendance. Tickets start at $12. And on Saturday, the Australian Pro Wrestling Gym present live pro wrestling at Bathurst Panthers. Diego Redamales takes on Jay Law. The Plastics are in tag team action against the Kings of KO. Alistair McClear and Alcova Vice team up to take on Mr. Christmas and Caesar. Tar Lee goes one-on-one with Azalea, and in the main event, Jack Bonza goes one-on-one with Sam Osborne. Tickets for this one are $15. Up in Queensland on Saturday night, IPW are at the William Duncan State School for Love and War 2. The IPW Championship is on the line when Reaper defends against Mr. Queensland Wrestling, Rip Riley. Youngblood Jesse Love and Zeke Andino fight it out in a grudge match, and much, much more. Tickets start at $5. Also on Saturday night, New Valhalla Wrestling once again take over the Mount Gravett Showgrounds. You heard me talk to Michelle about it. This time, it is for Ragnarok, the House of Frost, DJ Havoc and GUN, and the Street Revolution, and one other team will compete in a tag team eliminator match for the New Valhalla Tag Team Championships, which were stolen at Hammerfall by the House of Frost. The Divine Adonis will take on Showtime Jake Nova. Matt Hayter will be in attendance and probably voicing his displeasure at being left out of Hammerfall. Ryan Thorne takes on the Asian sensation Shinji. Vixen goes to war with Michelle K Hasluck in Dawn of the Valkyries action, and the Warship defends his New Valhalla Wrestling Championship against Dallas Summers and Mad Dog in a three-way death match. That's gonna be one to watch. Tickets for that start at just $10. Over in Western Australia, Saturday night, AAW are once again live at the Baldivis Recreation Centre. For some reason, my notepad here always autocorrects Baldivis to Maldives. I don't think AAW are in the Maldives. They are in Baldivis. 45 minutes out of Perth, apparently, according to Kevin Chaya. So, the Baldivis Recreation Centre, Mike Massive takes on Jugs. Deli Dud Singh and Eric Owens face down the defenders. Mazdek goes one-on-one against Seth Kincaid in non-title action, and much, much more. Tickets for that one start at just $5. Meanwhile, over at the Gate 1 Theatre, EPW present their biggest show of the year, the main event for the weekend as far as I can see it in Australian Pro Wrestling, Reawakening 17. We did an entire podcast about this yesterday with Kevin Chayat, so make sure you check that out. Gorgeous Gary teams with Jonathan Wimbledon to take on the Taylor King Task Force. Dan Steele has called out the mystery attacker who has been troubling the Headhunters for the last few months. AZ Vergara and Jay Taylor take on Kyle Steria and David Nero for the number one contendership to the tag team titles. The Don Michael Morleone and Hayden Zenith settle their grudge in one-on-one action. Julian Ward looks to prove himself against the King of Monsters, Jonah Rock. The Real Wrestler, Gavin McGavin, defends the EPW title against Scotty Ryan, and the Street Gang Hooligans and Untouchables go at it one more time, this time in a ladder match with those prestigious EPW tag team titles strung up way up above the ring. Tickets for this one, if they are still available, start at $15, and if you live in Western Australia, if you are within travelling distance to Perth, you are a crazy person if you don't get down to check this one out for just $15 to $25. It's going to be one of the best shows of the Australian wrestling calendar year. You need to be on EPW Reawakening. Don't sleep on this one, folks. And that does it. That does it for this weekend. That does it for this week in Aussie Grapps. That does it for our interview. That does it for everything. I'm going to get back to being a cowboy. Thank you so much for listening. You can, if you like what we do more throughout the week. We cover WWE, we cover Ring of Honor, we cover New Japan, we cover absolutely everything with an asterisk that goes on in the world of professional wrestling. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit like, hit share, tell a friend, leave a comment, talk to us. We love the interaction. We like to know what people think of the show. Give us a 5-star review if you can on iTunes. But most importantly, thank you so much for listening.
Hold one. Arm drag.
You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two. Arm bar.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it. Dummy. Hold three. The moss covered.